Hello Year 2 and welcome to lesson 3 of our guided reading this week. Yesterday you were working super hard on your drawing of what you think it would have looked like when the dragon fruit popped and the creature flew out across Thomas's bedroom, and I hope you had lots of fun using your imagination for that one. I am super excited to read today's pages of our story because I really hope we get to meet the dragon. I hope you guys are excited, just as excited as I am, and I hope you're ready. Are you sitting comfortably? Okay, let's begin. So, I'm going to read the last line of the page before just to remind us, as we usually do. There was something wriggling underneath, trying to squirm its way out. Where was Tom Tom when I needed him? He'd left enough sad little critters on my carpet over the years as presents. He'd definitely know what to do with some kind of mutant fizzing worm. That's interesting, so Thomas still hasn't seen what's flown over his head. My heart was hammering in my chest. I'd have run a mile if I took my eyes off it, but it might slink away and then I'd have to go back to bed, knowing it could be somewhere in the room with me. I grabbed a mug off my desk and I stood up, ready to trap whatever it was. Oh, he's a lot braver than me. I probably would have just called for my mum. Slowly and very gingerly, that means he did it very carefully and shyly. He was a little bit scared. I lifted up the corner of the beanbag. Every bit of me was poised and ready to jump out of my skin if the thing came shooting towards at me. I lifted the beanbag higher, millimetre by millimetre. Now, remembering our capacity and our learning back in school, when we learnt about our rulers, we had centimetres which were a bit bigger, but the millimetres were the teeny weeny little lines in between, and in 1 centimetre there was 10 little millimetres. So if he's lifting the beanbag millimetre by millimetre, he's lifting it in such tiny increments it would take him a long time. So this is how we know that he's scared. Until I saw it, lying curled underneath. The mad hammering in my chest started to calm as I gazed down at the tiny creature in front of me. Now that's strange, because we know, from what we know about our story, that Thomas is staring at a dragon. But when he sees the creature, then he starts to calm down. So I wonder what our creature looks like. Which was most definitely not a mutant maggot. Although quite what it was, I had no idea. It looked like a bird, but it had thorny little spines down its back, and it seemed more leathery than feathery. It was bright red, and its wings were scalloped, a bit like bats, and it shimmered in the light of my rocket lamp, like it was having trouble deciding on the very best shade of red to be. So we've heard some descriptions of our creature today. So it had thorny little spines down its back, it was more leathery than feathery, it was red, and it had wings, but they were scalloped a bit like bats' wings. Now, as the reader of this book, there is a little picture in here which shows you what it is, but it's quite clearly, from what Thomas is saying, Thomas isn't seeing quite exactly the same as what we are. So this is the picture from the story. So look, we know exactly what creature that is, and we can see the spines down its back, we can see its wings, we can even see some smoke coming out of its nose. So we know what creature it is, but Thomas still isn't sure, and I'm sure if he did know, he wouldn't be calming down, he'd probably be getting a little bit more scared. So, your activity today is you are going to predict what is going to happen next. Now, we've done a lot of our predicting because we know that when we predict something, we have a guess, but it's not just any guess. We don't just pick any idea we want. We think about things that we already know and the things we've already read in our storybook, and then we make a guess using those to help us. So we are going to start our sentence with, now I hope you all know what I'm about to say. I predict that. I predict that. So, thinking about what we already know, so Thomas has just lifted the beanbag up very gently and very gingerly, which means he's quite scared when he's doing it, thinking he was going to be greeted by a mutant maggot. So we know he's quite scared, and then he seems to calm down when he sees the creature that's actually there. But we know, as the reader, that it's actually a dragon. But it can't be a very scary dragon because Thomas isn't scared yet. So I predict that Thomas is going to pick the dragon up in his hand and go and show his mum and dad. And then they will tell him that it's a dragon. So I predict that Thomas is going to pick up going to pick up the dragon and show his mum and dad. And I think his mum and dad are going to be very scared when they see it, because they will probably know exactly what that creature is. Now we've said that I predict that, and you've told me what you predict will happen next in our story. What do you think I'm going to ask for our next part? Have a think. I'm going to ask you to tell me why you think this, using the word because. So then you're going to say, I think this. Because. So once you said I predict that and you've told me what you predict is going to happen next, you're going to tell me, I think this because. Why do you think this? What in our storybook has led us to this? So I think this because in the chapter before, we had a lot of information on mum and dad, so we know that they're going to be quite important characters in our book. So knowing that, I think this is where they're going to come in and become those important characters in our story. Okay, so I've told you what I predict, well, I've written down what I predict, and I've told you why I think this. Okay, so your activity today is to predict what you think is going to happen next. Now we have one more small page left of this chapter, and I hope you are excited as I am to find out what happens next. I look forward to hearing your predictions, and have a lovely day. See you tomorrow.